Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about ratios, rates, and proportions. And the thing we need to remember about ratios, rates, and proportions is they're all comparisons of basically the same thing. So we're going to start out with rates. A rate is frequently used like miles per gallon, feet per second, stuff like that. And so what we need to understand about a rate is a comparison of two quantities. Okay, so what we might say is 135 miles to 6 gallons of gas. Okay, so when we compare two different things, we're talking about a rate. A unit rate is how much per one. So unit, how much per 1 gallon of gas. So i.e. this would be like miles per gallon, meaning miles per 1 gallon. Okay, so a unit rate is a comparison of one. Cost per ounce of green beans or whatever it happens to be. Okay, a very common one of these rates, specifically a unit rate, would be how much a person makes per hour, or wage. And so a dental hygienist earns $780 for working a 40-hour work week. How much is that per hour? So this is a unit rate. And this will be concerning you very soon as you get a job and things like that. So we'll take the total amount that we earn for all of the hours and divide it by the number of hours. And it's going to give us a total that is how much they make per hour. Well, that comes out to $19.50 per hour. Okay, so that's actually pretty good. That's a good unit rate to be making per hour. So I'm going to see if you can do B, and in B we're going to take the price for hamburger and find out how many dollars per pound it is, round to the nearest cent. Okay? Let's look at this in a more in-depth example. A teacher is paid $34,200 per year. Currently the school year is 180 days. If the school year were extended to 220 days, as proposed in some states, what annual salary should the teacher be paid if the salary is based on the number of days worked per year? So what we're going to do is figure out what they make per day, and then we're going to extrapolate that to 220 days. So if I take 34,200 and divide it by 180 days, I find out how much they make per day. Well, that's $190 per day. And if that's what I make per day, so for a 220-day school year, that would be 190 times 220 is going to give me my new salary of $41,800. So that's how much a teacher would make if they made the same amount per day for a 220-day school year. Okay, so that was another way we could use unit rate and then use it to solve a problem. A very common example that I often use in my everyday life is finding economical buys, like at the grocery store. And so what I have here is three different prices for foil. So the first is 200 square feet for $6.48, 90 square feet for $2.97, and 25 square feet for $1.22. So if I'm going to find the more economical buy, I can either say how much is it per foot or how many feet do I get per dollar. I'm going to do how much is it per foot. So I'm going to compare three rates, $1.22 for 25 feet. So what I need to do is I'm going to need to divide this. And if I go ahead and divide that amount, so I have $1.22, and I'll divide that by 25, I get its .0488 per foot, so around 5 cents a foot. If I do the next one, I have $2.97 divided by 90. And so that's 2.97 divided by 90. So this is going to give me 0.033 per foot. And so far this middle one is cheaper. And on the bottom here I'll have 648 divided by 200 equals 0.0324 per foot. So my more economical buy is going to be down here, but it's actually not by much. But you can see that this top one is not nearly as good a deal as the bottom two. Okay, and so that's how we can use a unit rate in our everyday lives. This will be something that might hit home for you coming up to the college years. I've got a 6-pack of ramen noodles for $1.05 or a single package for 16 cents. See if you can figure out which one is the more economical buy. The second part of this is ratio. A ratio is a comparison of two quantities once again, but a ratio is actually written in 3 distinct ways. It can be written as 1, a fraction, like 1/3. 2, it could be a ratio, 1 to 3. Or 3, it could be written with the word 2, 1 to 3. All right? And a ratio is how many things we have per how many other things. Here's an example. If an average 8th grader watches 21 hours of TV per week, what is the ratio? Of course, always in lowest terms, because ratios are always in lowest terms, of the number of hours spent watching TV to the total number of hours in a week. So I know that I'm going to be comparing this 21, which is the number of hours they spend watching TV, to the total number of hours in a week. And so if I set up this little comparison here, it's going to be 21 to the number of hours in a week. Well, I need to know how many that is, so I'll do this as 24 hours times 7. So that's 21 to 168. And so I can write this as a fraction, 21 over 168. Well, if I write that in lowest terms, what I end up doing is I end up taking out a couple of like terms, and I end up being, so 21 divided by 168, and I'll convert that to a fraction. And that's going to give me 21 divided by 168 equals, and I'll go fraction to decimal on this, so it's 1 over 8. So 1 hour out of every 8 hours is, or 1 hour out of every 9 hours is spent in front of this TV. Okay, so that's how ratios work. The last one is proportions, and you understand proportions already. Proportions are another one of those comparison things. And so a proportion is a way to compare two rates or ratios. And so down here you see we have 8 over 5 is equal to n over 6. Well, we're going to compare these. And so if you notice what I did here, this is actually called the cross products method. Some people call it the butterfly effect. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to multiply. So 8 times 6 equals 5 times n. So 48 equals 5n, so we divide by 5 on both sides, and we get n is equal to 9.6. Alright, so that's the way that we compare those two ratios. So 8 over 5 is equal to n over 6 now. I'll see if you can see if you can do b. Let's use proportions to solve a couple of problems. If we travel 290 miles on 15 gallons, so I'm going to set up my first proportion, 290 over 15 gallons. Well, my second proportion that I'm going to compare, how far I can travel on 12 gallons of gas, well, I have to keep my comparisons the same. So gas, gallons goes on the bottom, gallons goes on the bottom. How many miles goes on top? Because I don't know how many miles it is. It's X miles. But what I'm going to do is I will do my cross products method. So I have 290 times 12 equals 15x. So that leads me to 290 times 12 over 15. Cross multiply and divide. 290 times 12 equals, and then I'll divide that by 15. 232. 2. That's how we use cross products. So to get the same average number of miles per gallon, I would have to travel 232 miles on 12 gallons. Okay? So that's how this works. You can try the second one on your own, but that's the basics of rates, ratios, and proportions. Should be mostly review, but I just wanted to polish you up on that. All right? We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.